Violence and Action, Bert Kuntz. This was a movie
sir.
that was top secret for a long time. You couldn't even tell us who you were working with or what movie it was.
Yeah, and the production company that did the film, man, phenomenal. I just had an absolutely awesome experience working for them. They found me, oddly enough, through a Marine that I worked with 10 years ago, or 12 years ago.
No shit.
They started, Matt does all of the liaison work. He and I live near each other in Okinawa and became friends, but he does all the liaison work for the Marine Corps. If they do a movie or anything on a Marine Corps base or use Marine stuff and need to get authorization, he's kind of the guy. Tyler's worked with him a few times. So they called me out of the blue, but it's Thunder Road Productions, which did Sicario, John Wick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're massive.
They're just great, and they've only got 7 people working there, which is phenomenal. Like that's how they run. They're a small production company that hires a lot of people out. But the movie is Violence of Action, and I don't want to get too far into it, what the actual movie, the plot or how it goes. But the 2 main actors are Ben Foster. And Ben's one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. He's everything that's right. I keep saying that, but he's another person. Ben and I still text once a week. Just, hey, hi, how are you? What's going on? We bullshit. We joke like I joke with you guys when we text. But Ben's been in a bunch of stuff. Hostiles, 310 to Yuma. He played Charlie Prince, the bad guy.
He's going to win an Oscar one day, I think.
I mean, he was in Lone Survivor too.
His next movie that's coming out, I think it'll come out right after Violence of Action. I'm calling it now, Ross.
Mm-hmm.
He will get an Academy Award for, and I think the movie will probably win the Academy Award as well.
What's the name
He will
of that?
get a Best Actor.
Ben Foster?
Yeah, Ben Foster plays a boxer that was a boxer.
Harry Haft.
Just a good fighter. Harry Haft.
Yeah.
He played he was in a Nazi camp as a prisoner, and what the Nazi guards would do is they would pick guys that could fight, and they would kind of bring him in and say, hey, this is my guy. And instead of sending him in the gas chamber or executing him or torturing him, they had this underground boxing thing going, and he became very good and beat everybody. And then once they were liberated, he became a professional boxer. But the way Ben did it, I won't go into how they shot it, but Ben lost 65 pounds for this movie.
Oh, wow.
In a matter of like 75 days. They shot it pretty fast.
Whew.
But he showed me a little bit of it. I got to see a little bit of it, and it is going to be absolutely one of the best. I think he's going to win an Academy Award, and I think the movie is, just from the 5 minutes I've seen of it. But Ben was in the movie. The main character
I'm looking. By the way, sorry to interrupt you. I'm looking at that movie you were talking about. Big boy cast in that. You got John Leguizamo, Danny DeVito, Ben Foster, Peter Sarsgaard is in that movie. Peter Sarsgaard is one of the fucking best, dude. God damn it, he's a great actor.
Garden State.
Yeah. Boy, he's great in everything though. Jarhead.
It'll get nominated, and there's no doubt in my mind that Ben will get nominated. But just a phenomenal guy. He showed up from day one, and he and I went to the range and shot a lot, and he just soaked it in. Like, no ego. Listen to me. And I'm a nobody. Again, I've been out of Special Forces for a while. I'm not an instructor. I still shoot a lot quietly. I stay honed on my skills, but medical and shooting. But those guys, the other one is Chris Pine.
Yep.
And I didn't know much about Chris Pine other than Star Trek and some of the movies he'd been. His dad, Robert Pine, was the police sergeant in Chips.
Mm-hmm.
That's in almost every episode of Chips. It says, hey, guys, here's your mission for the day. Stand on a podium. But
he was also in Parks and Rec. He played a cult leader in Parks and Rec.
Yes, he did. He absolutely did.
By the way.
But my first interaction, you go through this process to do these movies, and people from the production company called me. And they're like, they feel you out. They call you and talk to you a few times, and then a month goes by. I don't ever get excited about this stuff because you don't know how long it's going to take. Hollywood and television, Ross.
Especially
nothing
now,
happens overnight.
And now during the pandemic, because you can't go to work. Everybody's social distancing. Hollywood is shut down, so a lot of these movies are being pushed to the following year. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, and they said, hey, we're going to set you up with a phone call with Chris. So Chris and I were supposed to have like a 15-minute phone call, and we talked for about 3 hours. And he had already done because he's such a professional. He'd already done so much stuff. And when I first met Chris and we went to the range, I went out to LA and we went and shot for a day. And that was kind of him feeling me out, me feeling him out. He liked me and, I liked him. More importantly, he liked me because that's how it works.
Yep.
Those guys want to be with somebody who's comfortable, and then they say, okay, this is my guy. So, and we went and shot, and Chris was straightforward and honest with me and said, hey man, I didn't own guns growing up. I grew up in this area and my dad was, he just said, I'm not a gun guy. I said, do you own a gun? Are you ever going to own a gun? And he wasn't against guns, but he just said, hey, I'm not a gun guy. So teaching him, but in a matter of time, and you'll see in the movie, this fucking guy is what I was talking about. It got to the point where we would be in between scenes in Romania in 25-degree weather in the middle of the night. And Chris is one of those guys, there's 400 people on set working. He would slide in and he's so nonchalant and has no fucking ego that he would slide in right next to the director, Tarek, who's a phenomenal guy. And he would be standing there and they'd go, okay, we're ready to shoot. Does anybody know where Chris is? And he's like, I'm right here. He's just, and he would thank the whole crew every day. And he was so but where I was going with that is I would turn around and he would be over there dry firing and doing tac mag reloads. And he got so fucking good at it. He's shooting crosshand. He's offhand. I mean, literally got so good at it in such a short amount of time. And watching that transition, and Ben was the same way, watching these guys, somebody who's not a gun guy, has never owned guns. By the end of the movie, this guy was working guns and working malfunctions and shooting just as good as anybody I've ever seen. And I'm not joking. I'm not comparing him to a soldier. I'm not comparing him to a real Green Beret. He's an actor, but that's how good he is as an actor, that he just soaked it up. And he would look at me and he would just smile. And I said, are you going to buy a gun now? And he's like, probably not, but man, I can see why this is why people like it so much.
Yeah.
Like shooting, not killing people, but just shooting guns and working guns. Anyway, but the movie's really good. They both play Green Berets. Ben Foster plays a former Green Beret that's out doing kind of spook work. And Chris Pine plays a former Green Beret. And that's as far as, or not a former, but he plays a Green Beret. And that's kind of as far as I'll go into it. I do think I may get beat up a little bit because we talk about, you guys know me. We added some stuff and they asked my opinion. I gave it. And there's some stuff in there that's fucking real. It's not all sexy. Not every Green Beret spends every day jumping out of a fucking helicopter and shooting miniguns and fucking doing cool poses and growing awesome beards. There's a lot of shitty stuff that goes on, and Dan knows this. Every branch in the military, whether you're in the 82nd or you're in a tier 1 unit, there's a lot of nonsense that goes on and a lot of policy bullshit and a lot of, hey, how do we fuck these guys over bullshit or people getting thrown under the bus for shit by their command. So there's some things in there that I think people in the movie that are fucking as real as it can get, but I think people are going to watch it, specifically some officers, and they're going to go, oh man, did they really need to add that in a movie? That's a little bit too close to home. But they asked that. They said, hey, I want this to be real. So, and there's no secret tactics. There's no classified information in it. It's all human terrain. It's all human. It's a pretty dark fucking movie. I think you guys are going to like it. It's pretty dark. The gunplay in it's awesome. The storyline's awesome. And the acting is really, really, really fucking good.